For this lesson, you need to open the sample file Sales Summary First Quarter 2008 from your Sample Files folder. While the built-in conditional format options are very powerful, you will occasionally have a conditional format requirement that's not catered for. For example, I've lost count of the number of times I've been asked if it's possible to highlight an entire row rather than a single cell within a row based upon the value in one of the row's cells. Let me demonstrate that visually. If I wanted every cell in column C containing the word USA to have a light orange background, you'd probably by now find this quite easy to achieve using a simple conditional format. But what about if you wanted to shade every cell in row 5 light orange, based only upon the value in column C? That is a more challenging task, and we're going to solve that in this lesson by using a formula-driven conditional format. Let me just undo those two colour changes, and we'll begin by applying a simple conditional format to column C. This is the easy bit, and you can probably already figure out how to do this. I select all of column C, Home tab on the ribbon. In the Styles group Conditional Formatting, we're going to go for a Highlight Cells rule, and because we're looking for the text USA within each cell, we want to choose Text That Contains and type the word USA. I'm now seeing all of the cells with the text USA in them highlighted in red with dark red text, but I wanted light orange with black text, so I'll click on the drop-down arrow and select Custom Format. For the font, I want the colour to remain automatic. Automatic means the default colour of black. It's exactly the same as selecting black as a colour, but I'll leave it at automatic. Then for the fill colour, I want that light orange colour. I'll now click OK and OK again, and you can see that I've achieved part of the solution. Every cell in column C that has the text USA within it is now highlighted with an orange background. But how can I do the same thing for column B? Well, this is a bit more involved, and it involves using a formula-driven conditional format. I'll begin by selecting all of column B, and then Home on the ribbon, Styles, and Conditional Formatting. Now, none of the built-in rules will work here, so I need to select New Rule from the drop-down. And this dialog enables me to create a brand new formatting rule to cater for any special requirement. I want to use a formula, so I'll select the last option in the rule type, Use a Formula, to determine which cells to format. Now for the formula itself, I'll begin by typing the formula in here, and then I'll explain why it will work. The correct formula is equals C1 equals open quotation marks USA close quotation marks. So let's now discuss why this formula will work, because at first it seems rather odd that we refer to cell C1 in the conditional formatting formula. C1 is in the title row, so how can this be right? The answer is to be found in Excel's treatment of absolute and relative cell references that was originally explained in Lesson 312. Excel regards the cell reference to be relative to the first row in the selected range. Since we selected an entire column, row 1 is the reference row used to adjust the formula for every other row within the column. In other words, Excel will look at cell C2 when applying conditional formatting to row 2, C3 when applying to row 3, and so on. And that's exactly what we want to happen. The word USA is enclosed in quotation marks because you have to enclose text in quotation marks when you use text within a formula. Now I need to set the format that will be applied when the formula returns a true value. So I click the Format button and apply that same light orange colour. I'll now click OK, and you can see that that's worked just fine. In every cell that has USA in column C, I'm also seeing column B highlighted. So it's now a simple matter to do exactly the same thing for columns A and D. So I select column A, Conditional Formatting, New Rule, using a formula. The formula is equals C1 equals USA as before, and the colour I'm going to apply is the same light orange. That's sorted out column A, and for column D, similarly, Conditional Formatting, New Rule, formula driven, equals C1 equals USA. Click on the Format button, apply the light orange colour, OK and OK, and we're done. And now each row is highlighted wherever the text in column C contains the text USA. Now in my classroom courses, I always teach this lesson as presented here. That's because I like to keep things simple by solving the problem using a very simple formula. And the reason I do this is that many students find mixed cell references challenging. That was the subject of lesson 313. But if you completely understood lesson 313, understand mixed cell references, you might find it interesting to solve this problem in a more efficient way. But as cautioned in lesson 313, don't worry if you don't understand mixed cell references. You'll rarely have to use them, and it's a skill very few Excel users have. Having said that, here's the expert solution. First of all, I'll click the Undo button several times just to remove the current conditional formats. And this time, I'll select all 4 columns, because I'm going to set all 4 conditional formats in one operation. Once again, the Home tab on the ribbon, and in the Styles group, Conditional Formatting. And once again, I'm creating a new rule. And the new rule is, again, formula driven. It's the formula that has to be a little different. Let's type the original formula and see what's wrong with it. Equals C1 equals USA. Now this formula would give the correct result in column A. But in column B, Excel would adjust the formula C1 so that it read D1. And that would mean that it would be looking for the text USA in column D. And for column C, it would be looking in column E. And for column D, it would be looking in column F. So things wouldn't work correctly at all, apart from in column A. The solution is to tell Excel that it shouldn't change the reference from C to D to E to F. In other words, the column C part of the formula is absolute. So I'll click just in front of the C and type a $sign to show that the C part of the formula is absolute. Now let's think about the number 1. Well, that has to remain relative, because in row 1 we want to look in cell C1, in row 2 C2, in row 3 C3, etc. So the mixed cell reference absolute C relative 1 will give exactly the result we want. Now let's set the format. I'll click the Format button and apply the same light orange. And when I click OK, you can see I've solved the problem in a more efficient way by using a mixed cell reference. All that remains for this lesson is to save your work, and I'm going to save with the new name Sales Summary First Quarter 2008 1. And as usual, I'll save to the folder above, my sample files folder. I click the Save button, and you've now completed lesson 418. Create a formula-driven conditional format.